Jingle bells in the dead of night. Oh, what fear it is to hide from the things that start with might. Jingle bells in the haunted night. Oh, what dread it is to roam through the darkness filled with fright.
Deep in the night, everything seems still as the snow slowly falls on the town of Wareville. But behind it all, there's a plan that could kill. There will be no sock miss if the mayor has his will. With malicious software, but there's a flicker from the hill. They call it Mount Hackett, the home of the glitch. The wares can't stand it, now they treat him like a witch. Just another evil hacker out to gobble up the kids. But behind all the trash and the monitor cliffs, there's a deep cave covered with a floppy disk. Inside of the cave, there's a single gaming chair. It's the throne of the glitch as he hides in his lair. He's misunderstood, but he says he doesn't care. Say he's actually good and he targets malware. He's misunderstood, but he says he doesn't care. Say he's actually good, yeah, let's target malware.
Jingle bells in the dead of night. Oh, what fear it is to hide from the things that start with might. Jingle bells in the haunted night. Oh, what dread it is to roam through the darkness filled with fright.
Back in the town, preparations begin. Marty May Ware climbs the stage once again. She's the one in charge of the celebration. As she begins to talk, everything just ends. The power turns off and she's looking at her friends. But back in the sock, the alerts start to sound. Mount Hackett's IP has been identified and found. It must be the glitch trying to hit back at the town. McSkitty leaves quick and heads straight for the cave, ready to inflict pain. But Glitch is at the door. He's ready for this moment to tell her he's in a war with the mayor of the town, who is evil to the core. He explains a little more, how his keyboard is a sword, and to even up the score, he really needs our help. Get your black hoodie on and the VM you've been dealt. Together we are strong, saving sockness from the melts.
Jingle bells in the dead of night. Oh, what fear it is to hide from the things that start with might. Jingle bells in the haunted night. Oh, what dread it is to roam through the darkness filled with fright.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to day 2 of Try Hack Me's Advent of Cyber. My name is Tyler Ramsbey, and I get to be the one guiding you through today's task. Before we dive into it, though, I want to introduce you to a special assistant we have for this task, namely Try Hack Me's Echo. Try Hack Me's Echo is our new AI tutor for faster, smarter learning, and it's enabled for this task. So I get the honor of showing it off to you. And honestly, it is super cool. I've been playing around with it before recording. It's a lot of fun to play around with, super helpful. Let me really quickly introduce you to Echo, and then we will dive into today's task. So here I am on Echo's landing page. So meet Echo, our AI tutor. It's our AI tutor for faster, smarter learning. So when we look at this, what's really cool about this AI tutor is that it has all of this content built into it, right? So it has 900 plus rooms of content. It has our machine action, so it's aware of what we're actually doing in the machine. It has all of the knowledge base of Try Hack Me. It has millions of users' classified actions. It's amazing. So a few features that it has, and once again, I'm going to showcase these as we go through this room. We get smart instant help. So we gain personalized assistant with just one click, powered by deep insights into what and how we're learning. We always stay on track. So when you're stuck, it helps you stay on track. You say, hey, Echo, what do I do next? Like, what should be the next thing that I do? And it will help you in the direction. And it just helps us be more efficient, right? Time is money. And if we can be more efficient in our learning as we go through Try Hack Me rooms, that's always going to be a win. So how exactly does it work? Well, you have Try Hack Me's massive content library combined with the millions of user interactions form an amazing AI tutor named Echo. And it provides personalized and enhanced learning experience experience. It's with us every step along the way, and honestly, it is super cool. So you can see some of the features here on the landing page, and it is right now in limited access, but it is enabled for a few of the rooms in TryHackMe's Advent of Cyber, including today's task number 2. And once again, I will demonstrate how all of it works. So with our AI tutor in hand, and we are going to continue to save SOCMAS. Let's jump over to the task and let's dive in. Well, let's begin with the story. It is the most wonderful time of the year again, and it's also the most stressful day for Wareville Security Operations Center, or the SOC team. Despite the overwhelming alerts generated by the new and noisy rules deployed, Wareville SOC analysts have been processing them non-stop to ensure the safety of the town. However, the SOC analysts are now burning out of all the workload needed before Christmas. Numerous open cases are still pending, and similar alerts are still firing repeatedly, making them think of the possibility of false positives out of all this mess. Now, help the awesome Wareville SOC team analyze the alerts to determine whether the rumor is true that Mayor Malware is instigating chaos within the town. Now, before we dive into it, there's a few things that we need to clarify. So when it comes to any type of SOC work, security operations work, the big thing that we need to understand is the difference between true positives and false positives. And that's a lot of what the room talks about. A true positive is what it sounds like. It's an alert triggered, usually by some type of logging software into a SIEM, which is a SIEM. We're going to talk about that a little bit more, but it's almost like one pane of glass that you can look at to figure out what is going on in your environment and to monitor anything that might be malicious or anomalous behavior. Well, a true positive is an alert triggered by actual malicious activity. It means a threat actor maybe has gained access into your environment, or they're poking at your environment from the outside via like directory scanning or brute force attacks. But these are real alerts by real threat actors that, as a member of the SOC, the Security Operations Center, you need to respond to it. But the difficult thing about identifying true positives is there are so many false positives. So when a logging tool is not set up properly, it triggers on everything. I mean, a sysadmin makes a change and it makes a trigger. A network admin fires up Wireshark, it makes a trigger. So if it's not tuned well, the SOC is going to get a whole bunch of alerts, and many of these are false positives. What this leads to is something called log fatigue or alert fatigue, where there's all these alerts on their dashboards and they begin to miss the true positives. It's almost like finding, quite literally, a needle in the haystack. The haystack is all of the alerts, the needle is a true positive, and it makes it difficult to figure out which is true and which one is false. But it's critical, because if you miss a true positive, that's when a threat actor will gain access into your environment, and often that will lead to really horrific things such as ransomware. And if you misclassify a false positive as a true positive, well, now you just wasted a bunch of time. If you take something that's a false positive and you put it up to scale and say, hey, McSkitty, you are the leader of the SOC, you need to investigate this, and it's not true, well, you just wasted time, you wasted money, and you wasted resources. Now, when it comes to actually working in a SOC, the SOC has a superpower, and this is what the room talks about a little bit, but the SOC superpower is communication, which is super handy. So right now I am a pen tester. That's what I do in my day-to-day job, which means I get paid to hack stuff, which is amazing. But before I switched to the red team, I was on the blue team. I was a senior analyst and I did vulnerability management and remediation. So I did some of this in my day-to-day job, and a big superpower I had is the ability to communicate. So what this means is, let's say you're working in a SOC and you see a notification that, hey, Wireshark has been fired up on so-and-so's computer and they might be trying to monitor traffic. Well, the beauty of being an employee in an organization is you can simply reach out to that person and say, hey, is this you, and why are you running Wireshark right now? Now, if it's a network admin, it might make sense. Maybe they're debugging, maybe they're troubleshooting something, but if someone in HR is pulling up Wireshark, well, hey, maybe they're learning the newest TryHackMe room in order to pivot in their field, but probably not likely that they're using Wireshark on their computers on the enterprise network. But you can communicate, and if it's not them, well, that's a pretty clear indicator this is a true positive. We see malicious behavior coming from this user's account. The user has confirmed it's not them. Hey, we need to put in our incident response plan and maybe escalate this up so we can triage it and figure out what exactly is going on. Another superpower you have in the SOC, which some might call this a downside, it really is an upside in big organizations, but that's big organizations, and this is what I worked on the blue team, is it's a very mature change request process. So I was a blue team in a very large bank, and in order to get anything done, I had to go through a formal change request process. So let's say I had to update some web servers or remediate a vulnerability, I'd have to fill out a detailed form to make a change request. And in my change request, I would have to say, here are the teams that are going to be affected. Here is my rollback plan. My change request would have to go in front of the change control board. They have to formally approve it for the day and the time. And then I would be able to make that change. So a cool thing if your organization does that is in the SOC, if all of a sudden you see behavior that might be a little bit different, well, you can check. You can see, hey, is there any change control request that has gone through at this time? Now, this actually happened to me. I did a change control request in order to reboot a bunch of firewalls and some branches for this bank. We were updating the firewalls. Well, I went through the whole process. It was approved, but the time that it was approved for, we thought all the branches were going to be closed, but some of them weren't yet closed. So all of a sudden, their network went down and they thought there was a cyber attack happening, and they reached out to us. But because we had a very clear change request process, well, they could see, oh, this is approved. Bad timing, but it was approved, and I had a rollback plan in place in order to roll back the change and stop any issues at those locations. But so that's why the change request process in the SOC is super important. The other thing we need to keep in mind is context matters, right? So we need to analyze user roles, user behavior. What a system admin or a network admin is doing is likely going to be different than what HR is doing. So if it looks like HR is trying to cosplay as a network admin, probably a big deal. We already talked about that a little bit. And then we also have to build the timeline. So let's imagine for a moment, and we're going to see this, we find a true positive. We find some malicious behavior. Well, we have to build the timeline and figure out what exactly is going on. What is the source IP? What machine did they compromise? Once they compromise, what actions did they take? And one of the best ways to do this is with a SIEM. And we're going to use the Elastic SIEM in order to investigate. But I know when I use the word SIEM, that might be confusing language for a lot of you. So let's go ahead and showcase our AI assistant. Let's switch back over to the room. So here we are back on the room, and let's open up Echo. And we'll say, hello, this room utilizes a SIEM. Can you explain what a SIEM is? Like, I am 5 years old. All right, let's see if Echo is able to help us out here. So hello, a SIEM, or Security Information and Event Management, is like a big box that collects and looks at all the security messages from different computers and programs. It helps find bad things happening, just like a superhero watching over to keep everyone safe. Let's go ahead and do this. So first, to pull up a few different things, we'll scroll down through here. This is all the stuff I already covered with you, talking about all of those different things. But here is our connection details for today. So we do not need the attack box. Now, I'm going to be using the attack box, so don't let that confuse you. The only reason I'm using it is so I'm not streaming from my host computer. Usually when I stream, I use a virtual machine or an attack box just so I'm not showing off my host. So I will be using the attack box, but you do not have to use it. You can do all of this on the computer that you're on. No VPN connection even required. We do need to start a VM today, and there is a direct link available. So let's go ahead and get this machine started, because it will take just a few minutes to start. It says it can take 5 minutes to initialize and for the Elastic login page to appear. So go ahead with me, click Start Machine, and then let's give it just a few minutes and we will dive in. All right, that took just a few minutes, and now we have our Elastic SIEM launched, but we should learn a little more about Elastic SIEM and what is going on. So let's ask Echo again. Let's pull up Echo, and we'll say, hello, we are using Elastic SIEM for this task. Can you give me a brief overview of what this is? We'll see if Echo is able to help us out. So Elastic SIEM is a security information and event management tool that helps analysts detect, investigate, and respond to security threats in real time. Sounds like it will be helpful for us in our investigation. It aggregates and analyzes data from various sources to provide insights into security events, enabling teams to identify potential threats and malicious activities more efficiently. Got it. Thank you, Echo. You are amazing. Well, hey, let's go ahead and begin our investigation. So we are given this link, and once again, you don't need to be in the attack box. You can just open this in your browser, and it should work. If at first you get a gateway error or any type of error, give it just a few more minutes. It does take about a full 5 minutes for the Elastic instance to start up, but I'm going to go ahead and copy this URL, and let's jump over to our attack box. So here we are in the attack box, and we'll open up the browser. But once again, to be clear, you do not need the attack box for this task. I am just using it for the purpose of the recording. But we'll give just a second for Firefox to open up, and we will head over to our Elastic instance. We'll paste it in, and the username is Elastic and the password is Elastic. So very secure, default stuff, but it should work for our purposes here. You can go and ignore all of these errors here. We'll just mute the warning, blah, 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 blah. We'll close this out, and we will type it in. So we'll do Elastic for our username, and our password is also going to be Elastic. Just to show this to you. So you can see right there, Elastic and Elastic, username and password, and we will click log in. And while we're logging in, it's going to load up our dashboard. And our dashboard is really where we can begin to detect and analyze and figure out what is going on. Now, according to the alerts that we received from the SOC, we had some malicious behavior on December 1st, 2024 between 9 and 9:30. So the first step we want to do is pull up those different events. And the way we can do that is if we go over to the hamburger menu, I think that's the correct terminology for this. We're going to click that hamburger menu there, and we're going to click Discover underneath Analytics. And now from here, we want to set our time, our date, because we're doing an investigation on a specific time period. Let's dig into that time period. The way we can do that is we can click this little calendar icon right here. And we actually, not the calendar icon, I take that back. The actual where it says 15 minutes ago, click that because we need to set an absolute time. So click where it says 15 minutes ago, and then we're going to go over to absolute, and we are going to set the date. So let's go ahead and change our month to December, and we're going to go December 1st, 2024, and we'll jump over to 9 o'clock, and we're going to go to absolute again. We'll do December 1st once again. December 1st, and we're going to do 9:30. So when that time frame, that's where we are going to begin our investigation, and we will click update. Now, when we do that, you can see we have 21 hits, but this isn't super helpful for us yet. We have all of this information, but this is not easy to analyze. I mean, just looking at this, we have timestamps, we have this ephemeral ID that I can't even say, agent ID, agent name, all of these things. I'm also going to make myself a little bit smaller, so I'm not blocking you guys. I'm not in your way. So I'll make myself nice and tiny down in this corner. There we go. But we have all this information. Let me see if I can zoom in for you guys so it's not so small. There we go, at least a little bit. I can zoom in a little bit, but you can see not super helpful. So what we want to do is create some columns. So it's a little bit easier for us to analyze. And the columns that we want to create is a few. So I'll show you how we can do this. We can search field names right here. So I'm going to click here, search field names, and we're going to type first, let's get the host name and add this to a column. So we'll search for host-host name, and we're going to click this plus icon to add the field as a column. And you can see now it's a little bit better. We can at least see host names out of these 21 hits, and let's add a few other columns that might be helpful. Let's look for username, because if we are investigating malicious behavior, it would be helpful to know the user behind the malicious behavior, so we'll add username. And let's add a few more. We'll add event category to see exactly what is going on in the event that we are analyzing. And let's go ahead and do process.command line. So if there's any process or any command line processes running, PowerShell, anything like that, it will show us very quickly by looking at our dashboard. We'll add that. And we have one more in event outcomes. So it's going to tell us whether or not it was successful or a failure when the command was ran. So let's go ahead and add that to our field. And now when we do this, we see a few pieces of information. We'll just kind of look through this together real quickly, and I'll see if I can adjust a few things just so it's a little easier for you all to follow along. Maybe if I pull myself up, if I pull myself up to up here, maybe that'll be a little bit easier so I'm not blocking these fields for you. We'll zoom in again so you can see it a little bit clearer. If it lets me, there we go. So right away, we can see some interesting things going on. What stands out to me is we have some encoded PowerShell. Now, this looks to be base 64 encoded. We'll eventually decode that toward the end of our task, but that is something that might be a little bit suspicious. All depends what's going on, but generally, encoding your PowerShell commands might mean you're trying to hide something. The other thing that's interesting is we have a username of service_admin. This seems to be in our environment here for SOCMIS and in Wareville Security Operations Center, a default account. Now, it's bad practice to make updates with the default account because it takes away logging. We don't know which user actually ran this outside of trying to look at their IP or look at what machine they're on. We just know that they're doing it as service admin. So that's suspicious as well. And when we read through the task, it looks like we do a little more investigation, and we are told there are 2 users that may potentially use this service admin account, but they were, I don't want to filter out of value. There we go. Let's not do that. The 2 users that use a service admin account were not in the office. So that's not good. Someone's using the service admin account. They seem to be avoiding any type of logging by using a generic admin account, and they're running an obfuscated or rather encoded PowerShell command. So all things that might be suspicious, but we need to do a little more investigation. This might be a false positive. We need to dig down a little bit more. So let's go ahead and add source IP because, hey, maybe they are coming from a weird IP. So let's go ahead and investigate that. We'll go over to our columns that we added before, and we'll change this over to source IP, and let's add the source IP column as well. So when we add the source IP column, we can see all of these are coming from this 10.0.11.11 from everything that we are able to see. And as we scroll, we don't have any other IPs. So we don't know the full timeline here. We're just looking at this 30-minute period right here where we have all of these PowerShell commands running on different hosts. So we can see it running on Warehouse 1 right here. We see it running on Warehouse 2, Warehouse 3, Warehouse 4, Warehouse 5. But we don't see the initial connection coming in. We just see the behavior as it's happening. So we need to extend our time frame a little bit in order to get a better understanding of what is going on, how the authentication happened in the first place. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's change our time frame, and we will change it over to, let's jump back to November 29th, and we can just say, hey, November 29th from there to December 1st. That looks good. We'll click update. And now when we do this, we have a lot more hits. We'll scroll up, 6,814 hits, but even just looking at the graph, you can see some behavior that really begins to ramp up right here on the time that we were doing our investigation. So when we look over at this, let's continue to narrow our search. We know that we have this username of service admin, so we really only want to look at things with the service admin username, and we also know that we have this IP address. So we want to narrow our search, or rather in Elastic it's called a filter. We want to set a filter by the service name or by the username service admin, and a filter by the source IP to really figure out what is going on here. And this is super easy. If you put your mouse over where it says service admin, we see 2 icons. We can see a plus and we see a minus. If we click the minus icon, it will give us every event that does not include service admin. Well, we want to see every event that does include it, so we're going to click the plus icon to filter for this value. And you can see that when we do this, up in the top left corner, we have username service admin, and it begins to filter by that value. Now, we also want to filter by our source IP address. So let's go ahead and narrow our search here. So we'll do filter by value of source IP address, and let's see how this changes it. So now we have a little over almost 6,000 hits here. And there we go. We have it zoomed in here. So now we have some interesting information. We have our service admin authenticating to these different things. We have some failures. We have some successes. But let's go ahead and filter by our authentication events. And we can filter out the source IP because we see, once again, we have the same source IP that we saw previously, but that's not the IP that we're trying to track down. But we do have a bunch of failures when we look at this. So we can scroll through here. Failure, 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 over and over again in a very close length of time. So if we look at our timestamps here, within just a few seconds, a few minutes at times, we have failures going on, and then eventually we have some successes happening, which seems to indicate some type of brute force attack. Now, if you're new to this terminology, a brute force, or really this would be more of a password spraying attack, is when an attacker targets a user. So we have service admin and then sprays a bunch of different passwords at the one account to see if they're able to compromise the account. And that seems to be what is going on here. But let's continue to narrow our search. Let's filter by our authentication event. So let's add a filter for event category authentication. We'll let that do its thing. All right, we did that. And let's take away our source IP. Because right now we're only seeing this IP, but what if we filter out? What if we remove this source IP instead of filtering for it? What if we filter it out? Maybe there's another IP we might discover that will help us unravel the mystery of what is going on. So let's filter out by this value. And that brings us down to, give it a chance to load, 1,100 hits, and we have a different IP address right here. And if we look at the events for this IP address, we have a bunch of failures. You can see this here. And once again, if you pay attention to the timestamps, look how close these are together. This is clearly an indication of a brute force attack. The attacker might be using a tool such as netexec, which is a tool for this exact attack in an Active Directory environment, so we can target a user, spray a bunch of passwords, and see if we can get authentication. But we have an IP. This 10.0.255.1, and they eventually have a success message right there, and that's not good. They did a brute force attack successfully, and they eventually got access to the admin O1 hostname as the service admin user, and this was the initial source IP that they were coming from, and we have a brute force attack. Now, when we go through the task, we recognize this isn't good, because this source IP belongs to the Glitch. You know, Glitch, who lives on Mount Hackett, who I made that amazing song about in the beginning of this video, that Glitch. The Glitch seems to have infiltrated the systems. And Mayor Malware said, hey, there's these alerts happening. You need to investigate. You need to check this out. And the Glitch, surely enough, I mean, this is their IP. We have identified it. The Glitch is using this IP to do a brute force attack in our environment to gain access to the service admin account and to execute some type of PowerShell. What is going on? Is the Glitch a hero, or is the Glitch a villain? Is Mayor Malware being framed by the Glitch, or is it the other way around? Well, we need to continue to investigate. We have identified a brute force attack. We have seen that they compromised the service admin user via a brute force attack. And once they compromise the service admin user, they begin to execute PowerShell in a bunch of different things. Let's go ahead and remove our categories here. And we'll see if we can figure out what exactly is going on. So we'll give this just a second. Here is our PowerShell command. It would be a good idea for us to filter out this PowerShell command, or not filter out, rather to decode this PowerShell command, because here's what we've identified so far. The Glitch has done a brute force attack against our environment. As a result, the Glitch eventually compromised the service admin account. Once the Glitch compromised the service admin account, they ran this encoded PowerShell command on all of our warehost machines, which is not good. So they're running something on our machines. So really, to finish unraveling this thread, we need to figure out, well, what are they running? We can tell right now it's PowerShell, so it's a remote command being executed on these machines, but what exactly is the Glitch doing? Well, let's go ahead and copy this, and let's go to a little website called CyberChef. You can see right here we have offline CyberChef loaded on the attack box. You can also, if you're not on the attack box, just go to CyberChef. If you Google it, it should pull up. We'll say sure, accept all, but we can go to CyberChef right here as well in GitHub pages. Either one should work, but we'll just go to the local one here on the attack box, and let's go ahead and input this string. Now, what reveals that this is base64 encoded is how it's set up, but let's say we didn't know this. Let's go ahead and copy this string, and let's ask Echo about it. So we'll jump back over to Echo right here, and we will pull up Echo, and we'll say, hey, we discovered this base64, or this string rather, this string, what encoding is being used on it? And let's see if Echo is able to help us out here. The string you provided is base64 encoded. You can decode it using a base64 decoder to see the original content. So if you did not know that's what was going on, well, now you know. It's base64 encoded. Let's jump back over to this machine right here. Now on CyberChef, you can do different recipes, which is kind of cool, hence the name chef. But a recipe is something we can apply to a string to decode or encode it, depending on what we're trying to do. And we know that this is base64 encoded. So let's go ahead and grab from base64 and set it there. And you can see right here. Now we have a little more encoding, and the task actually talks about this a little bit. If we go over to the task here, we'll lower Echo, and we scroll down, there's specific encoding being used because it's PowerShell. And you can see it's specifically this UTF-16LE since it's the encoding used by PowerShell for base 64. But even without doing that, we can get an idea of what is going on. But let's go ahead and apply this UTF-16LE. We'll jump over to this and we can go ahead and do the decode text. So up here, we'll search for decode text like so, and we'll add that as a recipe. And here on our recipe, we want to change this to this one right here, this UTF-16LE 1200, because that's what's used by PowerShell. And then we can see what is going on. Install Windows Update, accept all auto reboot. So that solves our mystery a little bit. The glitch did surely hack us. The glitch hacked our systems, did a brute force attack, but the glitch wasn't malicious. The glitch is trying to save us. The glitch is trying to save Sockmas. Yes, the glitch updated our computers, but not to attack them, rather to update them, to defend them against possible attacks, maybe against malware, but the glitch maybe isn't as bad as the glitch seems. Well, let's jump back over to the task and see what questions we need to answer for today's task. So what is the name of the account causing all of the failed login attempts? Well, we saw that. We actually see it in the screenshot. That's that service admin account. Remember, that was one of the first signs to us that something malicious was happening, because this was a default account that really, if you're working in the SOC, you should be using your user account so we know what is going on. All right, how many failed login attempts were observed? Well, we don't know. Let's go ahead and ask the Echo how we can figure this out. So let's pull up Echo, and we'll say, using Elastic SIEM, how can we answer this question? And we'll paste in the question. To find the number of failed login attempts in Elastic SIEM, you need to set the event category filter to authentication and event outcome to failure. Well, let's go ahead and give that a shot. I'm guessing, is that what the hint says too? Set the event category filter to authentication event. Look at that. So whether Echo or the hint, both of them work amazingly well. So event category to authentication and event outcome to failure. So let's go back over to our SIEM and we will remove this filter and let's add a filter ourselves. Let's add a filter and we will say we want event category. Our operator is going to be is authentication, and we'll click save. All right, and what was the other one we need to do? Event outcome to failure. So let's add a filter, and we'll do event outcome is, if I can click that, is failure. Save. All right, and that gives us 6,791 hits. So let's go ahead and give that a shot on our question. So we'll say 6,791. Boom. What is the IP address of the glitch? Well, we saw that if we jump back over to here, we can grab the IP. If we just filter out by this source IP, like we did before, give it just a second to load. And there we can see the glitch's IP of 10. If it'll let me copy that, we'll copy that and jump back over to this. There we go. When did glitch successfully log into admin 01? All right, well, let's go ahead and check that. So when did the glitch successfully log in? Well, we could filter our event outcome instead of failure. Let's change that to success. So the way we can do that is if we just click this, we can click edit filter. And let's change this instead of failure. Let's change it to success and we'll click save. And we have it right here. So on December 1st, 2024 would be the first one there. Let's go ahead and type that in. So we'll say December 1st, 2024. And then our time, if we look back, is at 8:59:39. So let's go ahead and grab that. We'll do 08:54. Whoops, if I could type 54:39. Jeez, I'm really having a tough time typing out this number. Is that correct? There we go. And what is the decoded command executed by glitch to fix the systems of Wareville? Let's go ahead and check that out. If we go back over to CyberChef, we saw, well, here it is right here. this install Windows Update. We'll just copy that, jump back over to the room, paste that in, hit submit. And finally, hey, if you enjoyed this, check out the Investigating Elk 101 room. That's actually a room that I have done, and I do recommend it. And we will click complete. And ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up day 2 of Try Hack Me's Advent of Cyber. Hope you enjoyed this journey with me as we dived into SIEM and we dived into Echo, the new AI tutor here on Try Hack Me, and we began to unravel the mystery. We identified that the glitch did hack our systems via brute force attack, but he didn't hack our systems to cause damage. He hacked our systems to update them and fortify them against any possible attacks throughout SOCMIS. So hey, thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.